Hi, my name is Gabriella Jacobson and I'm the founder and designer behind Green Upward. And Green Upward is a small design studio and a sustainable lifestyle blog that I founded about 2 years ago. And then last August I launched a Kickstarter for the market and storage bags, which are these bags right here. And after launching that Kickstarter, I got quite a few comments on my Instagram and through my blog from folks like you asking me about my sustainable design process and what went into that process. So I decided to create 5 videos that are based on the 5 mantra points from Green Upward's mantra. And this first video is about designing real tools for real people. So this is all about making the beautifully functional and not the pretty useless. So we have plenty of things in our homes that sit on shelves and then one day we just decide to throw out. And this is all about having a design process to design something that people want and need and not just toss out. So to dive into that design process, first I actually want to tell you about how I got started because this was the need for this bag was a need that I had personally. So after graduating from school, I wanted to live a more sustainable and zero waste lifestyle, and I'm still working on doing that. And I was in the grocery store during 2 different visits, and what I was trying to do was avoid getting one of these like classic gross plastic produce bags. And so I brought a mason jar in and then I smashed the mason jar, and then I was trying to buy tomatoes and I just put them in my tote, and then the tomatoes were totally squished by the end of the visit. And I was really frustrated because I had broken glass all over the grocery store and I had also just wasted money on produce. And what I realized that I needed was like a fabric or flexible mason jar, and I wanted to be able to bring it home and put it on my shelf and for it to look good. And so that kind of kicked off this whole design and tinkering process where I was like, well, what could I make and what do other people need? Do they have the same needs as I do? And I asked my sustainable community and there was a need, and that kind of began this whole adventure. So to start us off, I wanted to talk a little bit about the sketching that went into the design of these bags. So when I was first designing this bag, I knew that people needed a bag, and I knew that it needed to be flexible. It needed to like fit into their existing canvas totes. It needed to fit into their homes, but I didn't know what the final design was going to be, and so I needed an easy way to explore it. And so the budget for this project was 0. So I just made these like quick sketches. And when you're sketching like this, what you're really trying to do is just kind of explore as many ideas as possible. So I made like these quick sketches, and we call these thumbnail sketches. So I have an industrial design background, but that being said, you don't need any kind of design background to start a design project. Just like get out there, grab a pen and paper, and start sketching out your ideas. So there's tons of different levels that you can take an industrial design sketch to, and if you look online, you'll see these like amazing sketches. But if you're like me, you have like no time. This is your second job. And so these sketches have to be like quick and dirty, and you're just trying to explore a bunch of concepts as quickly as possible. So after I made these sketches, I then went into a prototyping phase. And at this point, I had put aside no budget. This was just something I was tinkering with after work. And so I wanted to just use materials that I had around my house. I mean, I am a designer, so I did have some scrap fabric. But more importantly, I had a bunch of paper. And so I made these models. You can actually see them in a box. They're just a bunch of like really simple models. And I just made these models out of copy paper. So it's just like, here's one that's like a little milk carton because that might have been a good idea once. And here's one where I was like, oh, look at this like tiny handle. Maybe that could be cute. And I did hash marks for like the different kind of fabrics that I was envisioning. This one is like just a giant pocket. I had like a couple like taller versions to explore how I got to my final design. And then after I made these paper models, I definitely was more influenced to go towards more organic and natural forms. And I also felt like that's what would resonate most with my sustainable community, who is ultimately who I wanted to design this product for. And so then I went into prototyping. And so you can kind of see there's quite a few of them. I probably made close to 100 to 200 prototypes, and that is really, to me, how you get at the heart of what you're designing. Is just you build and build and build and tinker and tinker and tinker. So I built like tiny prototypes. Like this is the smallest final size, but I was like, maybe people also want like a tiny size like this big. And then I also built like giant prototypes. Like maybe people want a giant bag to put, I don't know, a ton of watermelons in. But I asked people and nobody wanted a giant bag to put a ton of watermelons in. It wasn't a thing. So, but you can see there's like a ton of prototypes just inside this bag. It's just a bunch. And I used a bunch of scrap fabric. So this was like some fabric that I had lying around, and I just explored like what the different volumes could be. But then I realized that I definitely wanted canvas, and I definitely wanted all natural organic materials. So I will do another video on materials, but for today I just wanted to point out like the natural fabrics, and then I need to like look at the way that those fabrics moved. I also did a lot of research into fasteners. So I did a lot of prototypes with like different buttons and side buckles and like belts and like whatever this doohickey is, because I wanted like an easy way to close the bag. Ultimately, what I discovered was it was really hard to get natural fasteners. So a lot of fasteners come with plastic. So even if you buy a zipper, there's plastic fabric around the zipper. If you buy like a metal zipper, and then there's plastic fabric around it. So it was really difficult to get away from plastic and to just stick with organic natural materials, but I was determined to do it. And so ultimately, through all the exploration that I did with my designs, I kind of came upon two things. And one was an old-fashioned sailor survival bag, which is like that classic roll bag. And then the other one was Japanese gift wrapping claws. And so a Japanese gift wrapping claws, they're like beautiful claws that you can wrap gifts in, and then they have all this kind of fabric origami about how you can wrap the bag. So then after I saw those examples, I was like, well, the combination of those two things could be really beautiful and really functional for this bag that I'm trying to create. And that's ultimately how I got to these like bag tie systems that are now on the top of the bags. So after I did all these prototypes, I of course was asking my friends and family to carry them. I was carrying them around. Every time I went to the grocery store, I shoved like a bunch of bags in my car. I shoved bags in all of my friends' cars. And I just asked them for as much feedback as possible. I also reached out to members of the sustainable community in my area. So I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. So I asked members from like local meetup groups if they would carry some of the bags, and if they would consider giving me feedback on what they thought of the designs. And I really learned a lot from them. You know, I learned folks needed bigger bags, smaller bags, bags that were just the right size. I learned that folks needed second handles so that they could have like the long handle for their shoulder and then the second handle for their wrist, because moms were holding on to kids in grocery stores and they needed to be able to hold on to the bag and hold on to their kid. So user testing is a really important part of the design, because ultimately you're designing this to be functional for other people and not just to be beautiful and something that you are glad you made, but you want people to go out and use it, because that's the most rewarding thing as a designer, is to have other people enjoy using something that you designed. And then after I did all that user testing, I found a manufacturer and I brought the bags down to the manufacturer. And then I needed to do some strength testing with the bags. And again, this project has, had no budget to start off with. And so I brought weights from my parents' home gym. And so I brought weights and I stuck them in the bags, and I was standing on the floor of the manufacturer, literally just like shaking the bag, trying to figure out how I could break it. And I did. I broke the original prototypes, and then we learned about how we needed to strengthen the bags and where the bags needed to be strengthened. So most of the bags have what's called a bar tack. So on the inside, on the interior part of the bags, there's an extra stitch seam. You can also see them in your jeans, like on the belt loops of your jeans. And so the bar tack actually made the bags a lot stronger, or there was the X box on the larger bags, which is this part. This stitching, you can see the X pattern on the larger bags. Well, that is all for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Green Upward's sustainable design process, there are going to be 4 more videos. So you can find those videos on my blog or on my YouTube channel. And if you're interested in learning more about Green Upward overall, I suggest signing up for our community email. So if you go to www.greenupward.com/sign up, you can sign up for our community email. And if you sign up for community email, you get 10% off your first purchase of your Green Upward bags. So check that out. So it's been great chatting with you guys today, and I hope to see you again. Bye!